I personally have no problem with going into the office every day for work, but the only part that drives me nuts that I kind of forgot about is the lack of feeling like I have any time for myself.
Remote work is a fucking disaster for you. You're less likely to get promoted. You're less likely to get a raise.
The main topic right now needs to be, why are we not doing remote work at this point? Gas is rising at 20% or higher every 48 hours in most areas. And yet and still, you want people to commute 5 days a week, run errands, and there's no relief.
Is the work getting done? That is the only question as a manager that you need to be asking your remote employees. I'm really tired of seeing the question over and over from leaders and managers. How do I know that these people are working?
Let's be honest. Remote work didn't just change where people work. It changed who holds power at work. And now that power is shifting again. Because while folks were celebrating sweatpants, no commute, and midday grocery shopping, companies were quietly learning something too. They learned work doesn't need a building. And once work doesn't need a building, it also doesn't need to stay local. That's where the conversation gets uncomfortable. On this channel, we break down the behavior people normalize online, the incentives driving it, and the real world consequences nobody likes to talk about. Not reactions, receipts. And today we're talking about remote work. Not the cute TikTok version either, the real version. Now, remote work existed well before 2020. Let's clear that up first. But it was treated like a privilege, usually reserved for certain industries or certain employees companies already trusted. Then the pandemic hit and companies had no choice.
The pandemic has forced millions of Americans out of the office to work at home. And even as states start to reopen, there may be no going back. CBS's Chris Van Cleve has more on who's zooming who.
Now Bloom, like about half of American workers now, is doing her marketing job for a website that links people with pets from home.
My days were filled with a lot of meetings before, and they're still filled with a lot of meetings. The biggest difference is that the meetings are all done with a screen.
Thank you all for doing all the hard work you do.
Every day at noon, Verizon CEO Hans Vestberg hosts a company-wide live webcast aimed at keeping his 120,000 employees working at home looped in on changes to their business and how they do it.
Ultimately, when this is over, I think we're going to see a different way for our employees, how they're going to work. And we're going to have a mix where people are mixing between being at office and sometimes working from home, because it's actually working pretty well.
Verizon has seen a 1,200% increase in customers using collaboration tools like Zoom and a surge in phone calls, 800 million a day. That's double a typical Mother's Day.
When CBS News went largely remote, we all had to get creative. Our homes became makeshift studios. Our phones and laptops are being used to gather news in ways we've never done before.
And then group it together.
Jonathan Tutel is also working from home, but grudgingly.
Was most of your work in person? Did you work from home at all?
No one worked from home. In fact, our business is very interpersonal.
As the New York market lead for Squarefoot, a commercial real estate company, there's only so much he can do remotely.
But on a daily basis, trying to deal with landlords, trying to deal with tenants, it's nearly impossible.
While Tutel looks forward to getting back into his Manhattan office, Bloom sees the benefits in the home office.
It's put everyone on an equal footing, which has been really great for us.
And gives her a chance to take a baking break. Change driven by technology and a pandemic. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, working from home.
And what happened? Businesses stayed open, meetings kept happening, money kept moving. Workers reorganized their entire lives around flexibility. People moved states, changed childcare setups, started side businesses, purchased new homes, built routines around freedom they never had before. And that changed expectations permanently. Once people saw their job could be done from home, they stopped seeing the office as necessary. While companies were discovering flexibility, companies were discovering scalability. They realized if work can be done from anywhere, talent can come from anywhere.
The number of remote jobs is growing. That's according to a quarterly report out by the job search site The Ladders. It says 24% of professional job postings are now fully remote. Before the pandemic, only about 4% of jobs were work from home. The fields with the most remote work opportunities are in brand marketing and management, account management, sales, and quality assurance. Here now to break down this new work from home world is the founder and executive chair of the job search site, theladders.com, Mark Sendinella. So Mark, thanks so much for being here with us tonight. And we've had more than 2 years now to look at this data to see if this actually works. Does working remotely from the standpoint of the employer work?
Yes, it does. We saw last year that corporate profits were the highest they've ever been in U.S. business history, a record year. So when we asked the question, hey, can we be productive working remotely? The answer came back a resounding yes.
So do the employers save on overhead and the morale of the workers, or do they lose communication and productivity? Because isn't that something that employers have been complaining about?
So what we see is that the productivity has actually been as good as or better than the productivity in the office. The need for FaceTime, the need for meetings, going to meetings that you didn't really need to be at, were all part of the culture of in-office physical presence of work. Once we worked remote and we only got together when we absolutely had to, once we started working remotely, people really focused more on their performance, on their output, on the outcome of their work, rather than giving face time to the boss.
And that changed the hiring map overnight. Instead of hiring only in one city, companies could hire nationally or globally. And that sounds exciting until you realize something. You're no longer competing with just your coworkers. You're competing with the entire internet. A lot of people online reduce this to companies want control. That's part of it, but not the whole story. Some companies are locked into expensive office leases. Some roles genuinely need in-person training. Some teams collaborate better face-to-face. But there's another reason that rarely gets said out loud. Return to office policies also reset leverage.
Chair will explore a bipartisan bill to make remote work a permanent option for state employees.
Yeah, Democratic Assemblymember Alex Lee and Republican Assemblymember Josh Hoover tell ABC 10 California must permanently adjust to the post-pandemic world. Assembly Bill 1729 comes as Governor Gavin Newsom's July 1st deadline for most workers to return to the office for at least 4 days a week is fast approaching. Lee and Hoover say telework offers more flexibility, reduces traffic congestion, and is more economic. A report by the state auditor's office did confirm those cost benefits, noting in a report telework can create significant savings for the state if workers can be remote 3 or more days a week.
When the job market was hot, workers had options. Now the market is cooling, companies are rebalancing authority. And sometimes return to office isn't about productivity, it's about attrition. If people quit instead of coming back, companies reduce staff without layoffs. That's business math. Remote work gave people lifestyle upgrades. That part is real. More family time, less commuting stress, more autonomy. But it also introduced new risks. Remote workers often face less visibility with leadership, fewer promotion opportunities, weaker mentorship pipelines.
I just got called into the office to get told that I didn't get the promotion that I have been working for the past year, and they listed off all of these things that needed to be done that hadn't been done, and that's why I didn't get the promotion. Meanwhile, I had the meeting recording from a year ago when we first talked about this promotion, and I have it all transcribed for me in the Playbacks app where it says exactly what I needed to have done. And surprise, surprise, the goalposts had changed because they were listing completely different action items that I was supposed to do in this year than what they had told me in that original meeting. I don't even understand how this is allowed.
Bro, some people got to realize that whole being the best worker, slaving at your job, you feel me, trying to produce the best numbers, going above and beyond every single day for the fucking company. A lot of people have to realize that's only going to get you so far. I get a lot of people say, what if you want to move up in the company? What if you want to... Everybody can't do that. So it's like, while you're at that job, slaving your ass off, I mean, sweating like you just been out here fighting in a war or some shit for this fucking company that don't care about you, that'll replace your ass as if you were the worst of the worst or just nobody to them because you're just another motherfucking work number when you clock in and clock out. Ain't nobody really giving a fuck, you feel me, about whether you leave or whether you stay at that job. They just want to see how much work and how much labor can they get out of you. And they try to condition you to thinking that you really doing something. But at the end of the day, you being all the way up here, being the best, most dependable, because you realize the more you do, the more they call on you. And the better you are, the more that you the one that's getting called in and shit like that. You the one getting called to do all the hard shit. But little do you actually think to realize you making just as much as the motherfucker who's the worst of the worst, who got the worst numbers and who's still employed. Y'all still making the same pay.
Out of sight sometimes means out of advancement conversations. And then there's the bigger layer. If your job can be done fully online, it can also be outsourced or automated. This is the part people skip. Once companies learned work can happen digitally, they started asking a new question. If work is digital, does it need to be done by a person?
I am terribly sad to record this. I believe that millions of white-collar workers are going to lose their jobs in the next 12 to 18 months due to AI. AI is now able to do the work of a very, very smart human in minutes or even seconds. This is going to displace marketers, coders, designers, lawyers, accountants, call center workers, you name it. The result of this is going to be an ever more extreme winner-take-all economy where the top 20% or so are able to thrive and then the bottom 80% are left behind. And when people lose their jobs, it affects dry cleaners, dog walkers, hairstylists, restaurants, all local businesses that see less people who are able to spend. Personal bankruptcies are going to surge. College graduates are going to have a very difficult time finding entry-level jobs. People are going to be very, very angry by the fact that this path to middle-class status and social mobility is going to be broken. We should be doing much, much more, including a universal basic income. The AI job apocalypse is real, and it's underway right now.
Remote infrastructure makes automation easier to plug in. Customer service bots, AI scheduling tools, data processing automation. Remote work didn't cause AI growth, but it absolutely made AI replacement easier to implement. Now workers aren't just competing with global labor, they're competing with software. A lot of companies landed on hybrid policies, and it sounds like a compromise, but in many cases, hybrid is a transition phase. It allows companies to slowly increase office expectations without triggering mass resignations all at once.
John joins us now. He is a behavioral scientist and author of You're Invited, The Art and Science of Cultivating Influence. John, appreciate your time tonight. You lay out a bunch of reasons why this is not sustainable over the long term. You talk about trust, you talk about belonging. Can you explain why this is not forever?
Well, first of all, the big problem is that it's incredibly difficult to build trust at distance. There's something called the Allen curve, which says that our communication grows exponentially the closer our desks are. And once people are out of sight, they're out of mind. And so those spontaneous connections don't happen, and people just don't develop the same level of trust and belonging. The bigger issue there.
I was going to say, you point out that you say work from home may be too convenient, but you're probably being listened to by a bunch of people who have been working from home, for whom the convenience has been the total selling point.
One of the big issues is that if you have a short commute, it actually gives you an opportunity to think through ideas, learn, explore new topics, and gives you a transition period that's essential to let your mind take a break. If you're on 10 hours straight of back-to-back Zoom meetings, you have no time to process and no transition to your family.
That doesn't mean hybrid disappears everywhere, but it does mean it's often strategic, not permanent. Now, the type of flexibility you'll have in adulthood is heavily tied to the skills you choose to build early on.
$75,000 to $90,000. 100% remote in the United States. It does not require a degree. Unlimited PTO, and they're going to give you some professional development stipends along with a couple of others. This is what I would consider a true entry-level role, so let's get into it. This is a customer success associate role, specifically for an AI startup, and y'all know we are in the world of AI. I'll talk to you about the skills required for this, but before I do, let me introduce myself. What's good? What's happening? My name is Shaquille. I'm better known as your favorite six-figure chick. Myself and my team, we help people transition careers, scale the corporate ladder, and land six-figure paying job. If it means transitioning into a 75 to 90K role before you get to that six-figure job, okay? The only hard skill for this role is 1 to 3 years of experience in something that is customer-facing. Customer success, support, training, operations. The options are endless. Let them tell it. You should name the company, but let me just remind you, please optimize your resume before you apply to this role. I know I be sharing shit. It seems like it's easy. Easy does not mean you can do whatever the fuck you want to do. So optimize your resume before you apply. Some help with that. Great news. We can help you out with it. I've got over 2,000 completely free videos right here. You can grab my resume template if that's what you need, or you can just let us do your resume for you. It might not get back in time for this customer success associate role with a company called Tenor. Company name is Tenor. But if you stay ready, you don't gotta get ready because I share jobs today here 3 to 4 times a week.
Not every career allows location freedom. Jobs built around physical presence will always require location. Jobs built around problem solving, data, communication, leadership, and creative production, those travel. Flexibility is rarely handed out. It's built through skill selection. And that doesn't mean people need to avoid passion. It means passion needs to connect to value creation because degrees and training paths shape lifestyle options later. That's just reality. Remote work didn't just change jobs. It changed housing decisions, dating patterns, family structure, local economies, work identity, career loyalty. It challenged the entire idea that success requires showing up to one physical location every day. But every change comes with trade-offs. Remote work redistributed power, sometimes towards workers, sometimes toward companies, sometimes toward technology. Remote work isn't disappearing, but it is evolving. And the real question isn't, is remote work good or bad? The real question is, are you building a career that stays valuable no matter where work happens? Because location independence only works if your skill set is independence proof. So I'm curious, do you think remote work is expanding freedom or quietly increasing competition? Have you personally seen return to office policies affect your workplace? And if you're raising children or mentoring young adults, are career choices being discussed with flexibility in mind? Now, if this conversation gave you something to think about, go ahead and subscribe and join us over here. And if you rock with this type of breakdown, hit the hype button. That helps push this video into new conversations and new audiences. Drop your thoughts in the comments and share this with somebody navigating workplace changes right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.